Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video. I am Luke, otherwise known as the Dragonborn Reviewer, and today we are doing something just a little bit different. We're doing a tag video. The homie Usman over at Bards and Books just did this video, and that is the heavy metal book tag. Basically, there's some questions that we're going to answer about our favorite books and our favorite music. If you guys don't know, I am a huge metalhead. I listen to a bunch of different stuff, and Usman over at Bards and Books has been doing some metal-related content, also tying into fantasy and books as well, which I've really enjoyed, and I figured I'd want in on this tag here, so that is what we are going to be doing today. If you guys haven't already, please be sure to leave a like and subscribe if you do go on to enjoy this video, and let me know down in the comments below if you guys are fellow metalheads, and if so, what are some of your favorite bands. And without further ado, let's get into it. Alright, so the first question asks, what is a favorite character voice or point of view? And for this, I'm going to answer with character from historical fiction series, the Saxon Tales. I'm going to go with Uhtred, the main character. This series has what they call a framing narrative, so it's a character who is telling their life story. And Uhtred is like an old man, and he's telling his life story from all the way from when he was like a little kid to the present, pretty much. And this is my favorite book series of all time. And to me, Uhtred is just an awesome character. He's very bold and brash and arrogant, and but he's also really good at what he does. So most of the time he has a reason to be those things, and he's just entertaining, very hot-headed, and he gets himself in a lot of trouble, and it's just really entertaining to read. Hearing him describe battle and just his voice and his presence is always a sight to behold in Saxon Tales. So, although that isn't a fantasy book, I don't know if it technically needs to be, but historical fiction is definitely something I cover here on the channel, and I think that ties in well with fantasy. There's a lot of similarities anyways, and historical fiction can be definitely pretty metal. And along with that question about our favorite character voice slash POV, we have favorite metal singer. If you see me looking down, it's because I have notes here. And my answer to that for my favorite metal singer, when it comes to like screaming vocals, I'm gonna go Randy Blythe of Lamb of God. Lamb of God is one of the best modern metal bands out there. Pantera was arguably the greatest metal band of all time in the 90s and early 2000s, and I definitely am in the mind that Lamb of God picked up what Pantera left behind and sort of carried on their legacy, and also did their own thing too, but you can definitely feel a lot of Pantera through Lamb of God. Randy Blythe, I mean, nobody does it like him. I've seen them live. The dude has dreads that go down to his knees, and he's just screaming and going insane with like flames all around him, swinging his hair like a windmill. Nobody does it like this man. And yeah, Lamb of God is awesome. He has some of the greatest screaming vocals. He has a large range, going really high pitch with his screaming. Also, his growling, he can go really low too. He's just an awesome singer. I say singer, but like metal screamer. I don't know, that sounds weird, but you guys know what I'm talking about. Randy Blythe is just awesome. Now, I actually chose two for this because I wanted to also talk about a metal vocalist that isn't necessarily known for their screaming, because not all metal is about screaming. I'm going to talk about a guy named Ben Ward. He is the lead singer of a band called Orange Goblin. They're like a stoner groove metal band, very reminiscent of Black Sabbath, sort of that same vibe. doom metal is something that I like a lot. And Ben Ward, his voice is very similar to Ozzy, at least like Ozzy's stuff in Black Sabbath off of the first few albums. He has a very similar voice, except him, I think, is like, I don't know. He just gives off, like, Orange Goblin as a whole, and this dude, they just give off a vibe of, like, I don't know, like, imagine, like, wizards, like Gandalf and Merlin, if they were, like, stoners, which, I mean, Gandalf already is a stoner, but imagine if they were, like, bikers, and they're like, stoner wizard bikers. And you could just feel that through this lead singer's voice. That's what it sounds like, and absolutely love it. He doesn't do screaming and stuff all the time, but also just Orange Goblin in general. Their lyrics are insane, just like, I don't know, astral space fantasy stuff, like weird stoner, like, again, stoner wizard, space wizards, I don't know. They're just dope, and you could just hear that vibe through his voice, and it conveys, like, their theming, and everything is just conveyed so well through his vocals. Now, the next question is a little bit of a difficult one, and I am going to be cheating on it just a little bit, and that is naming a character from a book who plays a stringed instrument, whether that be like a bard of sorts or even a guitarist. I don't know, it just depends on what you're reading. And to my knowledge, I don't think I've ever encountered a character that plays a stringed instrument. I'm looking at my books and manga and whatnot around here, and I can't say that I have. Maybe I have, I just don't remember. But me cheating on this question is going to be, I'm going to choose Jaskier from The Witcher. I never read the books. I did play some of the game, but my main experience with The Witcher does come from the Netflix TV show, which is why this is kind of cheating. But he's the only character I can think of, and he's one of my favorite characters, so I'm going to go with Jaskier. And along with this, it asks favorite guitarist. Now, this one is really difficult. I listen to a lot more music than just metal. I'd say that overall, my favorite guitarist of all time is Jimi Hendrix. No doubt about it. He's just the GOAT. But this is specifically talking about metal. So my favorite metal guitarist, although it is extremely difficult for me to choose, I'm going to go with Kyle Schutt from The Sword. The Sword is my favorite band of all time. They're a fantasy, sci-fi inspired, bluesy, stoner groove metal band from Austin, Texas, which I'm also biased against because I'm a Texan. So they're really cool. Kyle Schutt's a great guitarist. He knows how to lay it down. Even from the very first album, Age of Winters, he does an amazing job. Yeah, just implementing doom metal and blues into their music is just awesome. That's what I love about Southern groove metal, is the implementation of blues, which you'll see later on why I love the band Down, in stuff like Corrosion of Conformity, which also plays into Down. I'll talk about that in a minute. Yeah, and even Orange Goblin, they're definitely bluesy as hell too. So yeah, Kyle Schutt does an amazing job with all that, and The Sword being my favorite band, I had to go with him. Now the next question is a character that has huge, like, force, whether that is literal force, a character that you associate with force, whether that's like them actually being extremely powerful and having a lot of force, or figurative force. And I think I'm going to be leaning more into the figurative, a character that every time that they're on the page, and especially in the big moments, they steal the show. And that is going to be, for me, Tyrion Lannister from the A Song of Ice and Fire series. If you guys have watched Game of Thrones, you guys know, or if you've read the books, you know. Tyrion Lannister is like a little man, but he is extremely clever and witty, and he gets himself into a lot of situations where, in order to survive, he has to rely on his wit. And despite his stature and his appearance, he struggles and he gets through it. And every time he's on the page, he definitely steals the show. He's hilarious to read. I love his points of view in the series, like reading his chapters. And I love it, scenes where there's like this huge like political discussion, and he's just absolutely like cynical, but also like especially when the heat is on him and he can very easily be losing his life at any second, him wiggling his way out of it and just stealing the show with his wit. He has a lot of force in that sense, and that is why I'm choosing Tyrion Lannister. Along with that, ask what is my favorite bassist. Now, whether or not you want to consider this band as metal, that's up for you to decide, but I'm going to go with Les Claypool from Primus. Primus is like a progressive rock band. You guys probably may have heard of them. They're pretty popular in the 90s. In fact, I do have Primus vinyl right over there. Les Claypool is probably the most talented bassist of all time. Bass isn't something that I usually pay attention to all the time when I'm listening to metal and rock and whatnot. It can be very prominent, and in this case, the bass really is. Les Claypool in Primus always steals the show. He is also the lead singer of the band, but I love him for the bass work. It's just so funky and bluesy, and like it goes hard. Also, like on tracks like My Name is Mud and Tommy the Cat, or Jerry Was a Race Car Driver, the bass every time is just ridiculous. And I've also seen them live as well. Amazing show. Yeah, he knows how to pick them strings and play a bass. I tell you what, if you guys have never listened to Primus, definitely do so. Listen to like Sailing the Seas of Cheese. That's a great album. Also, what's it called? Pork Soda, or no, Frizzle Fry is what I'm thinking of. Check out all those. You'll see some amazing bass work. And although I do think that Les Claypool overshadows his fellow bandmates a lot, yeah, I'm pretty sure Primus is a three-piece. The other band members are extremely talented as well, also to be able to keep up with him. So if that's something that interests you, definitely check out Primus. And yeah, I think my favorite bassist is Les Claypool. Next up is a book that you absolutely could not put down and finished really quickly. This I'm gonna have to go with probably, realistically, a book that I could not put down and I finished very quickly. Was in middle school. I read the final book of the Percy Jackson series that I finished in a day. Like, I read it all day long. It was hype for me at the time. That was like the quickest I think I've ever read a book. And again, this one's a little bit cheating, but Shadow of the Gods. Now, I didn't actually read this book very quickly. I read this over the course of like a month because it was for the book club. However, if I had time to just sit down and read through all of it, I would have burned through it. I really would have. It's just so engaging, and just it captures your attention every time. Like, on every page, the characters are compelling, the world is compelling, it has some great action. That definitely reminds me a lot of Cornwell, which Cornwell has the greatest battle scenes in literature, hands down. And John Gwyn's battle scenes are very reminiscent of Cornwell, which I do like. Yeah, if I wasn't held back by the fact that it was for a book club and I had to pace myself, I would have destroyed it within the week. So that's my sort of answer. But yeah, I guess the final Percy Jackson book, or I guess not the final anymore because they have a new one coming out, but the 5th book is the one that I did finish in a day. And with this one, it's what is your favorite drummer? I think based on like pure skill, there is very few drummers I think that come close to Danny Carey of Tool. The guy's a madman. Tool is known for being like a math metal band, so he definitely has very complex and intricate drum patterns and whatnot. I think that he's very talented. He's not my favorite though. I just had to, mention him there. Bran Daylor of Mastodon is one of my favorite drummers. Mastodon being one of my favorite bands. Again, southern metal. Yeah, all great metal bands come out of the South. Like, come on. Nah, I'm playing. There are great metal bands from all across the country. Just my favorites come from the South. But Mastodon is like a prog metal band. They're really cool. Bran Daylor has like a lot of jazz experience. That's what he was taught as far as I know. And that's something that is a common occurrence, is that a lot of great metal drummers have experience with jazz, because jazz is such a difficult genre of music to play. And believe it or not, metal and jazz definitely have a lot of ties, because they are both very complex genres of music. Bran Daylor is awesome. He, in a band, as somebody who pays a lot more attention to guitar work and lead work, when I listen to music, the drums I think are one that also can be overshadowed by the guitar. But Mastodon is one of those bands where when I listen to them, I feel like the drums really are at the forefront. And I feel like that's hard for a lot of bands to do, at least for me as the listener. So him being able to do that and steal my attention every time I listen to Mastodon is really special. And he's great at it. I also think that Aaron Gillespie, or Gillespie, I always forget how to pronounce it, of Under Oath. He's really great. Again, another one of those bands that have some crazy drum patterns and timings and whatnot. They're one of my favorite metalcore bands. They're just awesome. I love Under Oath. He's also the clean vocalist of Under Oath as well. Just a cool dude. Yeah, the drum work in Under Oath is also freaking spectacular. So I did give a few answers there. It's probably between Bran Daylor and Aaron Gillespie. Next one is one that I sort of touched on, and that is a book with favorite themes. I'm gonna have to go with Bloodsworn Saga. This is definitely a hot topic for me at the moment because it's one of my favorite book series that I've read this year. Finished Shadow of the Gods not too long ago, and then just a couple of days ago I did finish Hunger of the Gods. So it's fresh in my mind, and maybe I have a little bit of recency bias, who knows. But just the idea of this Norse mythology inspired world that again is very Cornwell-esque, is something that I really like. And it's not just like Vikings and whatnot, it's like magic Vikings. And I like that. That's awesome. So that's one of my favorite themes about it. Also, it's got a lot from like revenge quests and following your own destiny, or not your own destiny, but like finding your own destiny, if that makes sense. Like, not like staying true to yourself, pretty much. I think is really cool. And yeah, that's something that is explored throughout the Bloodsworn saga between our three main characters, and each character is really awesome. So I'm gonna have to go with Bloodsworn saga for my favorite themes, and now a band or an album that also is like themed, and I'm gonna have to go with the Sword. I talked about them before being my favorite band of all time. In fact, I also did a dedicated video for the Sword on my other channel months ago. I might leave a link to that in the description if you guys want to check that out. But yeah, they're fantasy, sci-fi inspired. The first album, Age of Winters, is definitely a like Norse mythology, Viking inspired fantasy kind of thing. The second album is like a classic fantasy, and a few of the songs are actually inspired by A Song of Ice and Fire, which is really awesome. The third album is like is definitely like almost like a space western kind of vibes to it, while also having some classic fantasy vibes. It's definitely like a what I imagine Sun Eater to be. I haven't read Sun Eater yet, but it's like what I imagine, like a combination of Sun Eater and like the Dark Tower. That's kind of the vibes I get from it. And then the fourth album is again like more folky in nature. It's magical, but almost like a folky magic rather than like just wizards. Like it's got wizards and witches and whatnot, but it feels more like superstitious rather than like hard magic, if that makes sense. And same with their fifth album. Is more bluesy than it is metal. It's more like rockin', and it also feels more like folky, and rather than like wizards and stuff, it's more like almost like cryptids and like foresty witches and like folklore and stuff. That's sort of not saying that's actually what it's about. That's just the vibes I get from it. And yeah, I mean, the Sword has some of the most awesome songs and like lyrics and themes out there. So yeah, the Sword. And now my favorite enemies slash friends meet moment. What this means is like if there's a moment in a book where it's been leading up to this moment where this enemy and your main character, or not necessarily your main character, but leading up to two characters meeting each other and being in the same spot. I might go with, again, I don't want to go Bloodsworn Saga again, but the fight between, a little spoilers here, but Drecker and Orca, the first time at least, because they're probably going to fight again in the third book. But it happened earlier on in the book than I thought it was going to be. But Drecker is the guy who had Orca's son kidnapped and killed her husband and brought her out of retirement of being like a very skilled warrior. So she's forced to go on like this whole revenge quest. Drecker turns out to be what they call a Dragonborn. I'm the Dragonborn reviewer. My name is named after the Dragonborn from Skyrim, which it's not exactly the same. But yeah, I wasn't expecting that to happen so soon in the book. And when they finally did meet and have their little fight, it was awesome and very climactic. That was something that I had been looking forward to, because that's what felt like the ultimate goal of the first book is Orca trying to find the person who kidnapped her son and killed her husband. And when they finally meet and get in that fight together, it is awesome. And the final question is a favorite supergroup, and I sort of touched on this before, but I'm gonna go with Down. They're like a bluesy doom metal. Down is like a southern bluesy doom metal supergroup that is a combination of both Corrosion of Conformity and Pantera. Lead singer is Phil Anselmo, and the lead guitarist is Pepper Keenan of Corrosion. Just a wonderful band, honestly. They have what I love about Pantera and what I love about Corrosion, and you just smash them together. Songs like Temptation's Wings, Ghosts Along the Mississippi, Eyes of the South are all just awesome. Again, just a lot of that blues elements in it. Yeah, Down is really awesome, and if you haven't heard them before, you definitely should. They're really great. If you guys couldn't tell, I'm big into groove metal, blues metal, southern metal, doom metal, proggy stuff. So a lot of my favorite bands and music in general is going to fall into that category. Just to give you guys a little insight into my musical tastes. But yeah, you should definitely go check out all of these people and all of these bands that I have mentioned in today's video. And if you guys do that, definitely let me know what you think down below. But that is going to bring this video to a close. Big thank you to Usman again for giving me this idea and tagging me in this video. If you guys did go on to enjoy the video, please be sure to leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. I would greatly appreciate it. And also go check out Bards and Books. He's a really great YouTuber, booktuber. So I'll be sure to leave a link to his channel in the description as well. And as always, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.